Welcome back to In-House Happy Hour.
Clearly we're rusty with getting started.
What's new, right? But we're back to our typical happy hour setup. So we're live on Instagram.
Cheers, happy house hunting.
Cheers. Nothing like a Thursday afternoon cocktail, right? Mm-hmm.
I think we've earned it.
Definitely, and we're gonna keep earning it all weekend long.
That's right.
So, lots of conversations lately about the seller's market, hot seller's market, right? But what we don't always mention is how awesome it's been actually for first-time home buyers getting into houses right now. So we've had tons of first-time buyers.
A lot of first-time home buyers.
Getting into houses. I want to tell you why being a first-time home buyer is actually really great for the current market. So it was the day after Thanksgiving, and I was hanging out with family, and I had one of my buyers actually text me, and they were texting me about measurements because they were buying something new for the house. They're currently under contract. They should close within the next few weeks. They were sending texts, and they wanted some measurements for the house, right? Of course, like every home buyer, you want to buy stuff for your new house, right? So we get them the measurements and everything, and we get them everything that they need, and then we follow it up with,
what are you buying?
Do not open a new credit card. Do not get it like a furniture card or an appliance card. Don't go to Best Buy and buy your appliances and get that Best Buy card.
But
for
you're
that
gonna
extra
save 20% today.
You do not want to save 20%. Do not open that card. Do not put the purchase on a card. Pay cash. No matter, even if you're paying 10% or 20% more. Why, Danielle?
Well, if you're someone who's, talk to your lender first. I mean, if you're someone who's got a lot of room to breathe on your debt to income ratios, but chances are just don't take the risk. Even if you're in contract, don't start making big purchases that can screw up the deal for you. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean the deal is over. You sign contracts, you still got a number of steps to go before we're clear to close, and you've got to watch your debt to income ratio.
Yeah, you don't want anything to change that could jeopardize that home sale. The last thing you want is a mortgage denial after all you did to get that offer accepted. Like, nobody wants that, right?
No, and you didn't hear about any Black Friday sales on houses, did you? Because I've been asked about those.
Houses did not go on sale. No. Plenty of houses for sale. None of them actually went on sale.
No clearance on houses.
There are no deals right now, unfortunately.
Sorry, guys.
Actually, I'm in the middle of buying a house right now, and everybody's like, thinks that because I'm a realtor, I got a great deal. And the news is that I didn't. Like, paying same prices that everybody else is paying. That's just how it is right now. There are no deals, even if you're a realtor, even if you're a loan officer. It doesn't matter what your job is. Sellers still want what they want for their houses.
That's right.
They don't care who you are.
And there's so many buyers right now that they have no reason not to.
They have their pick.
We were talking about this earlier. I mean, if you want to be a picky buyer and you want this fixed, you want that done, well,
good luck, because the sellers
move on to the next buyer then.
Yeah, they move on. When you have 30 offers to choose from, they just move on to the next one. I've actually had that representing sellers, you know. People start getting picky, people start nitpicking things, and we say, you know what? Like, this is what we're doing, but we've got all these other offers who all say they're not going to ask for anything.
It's kind of like in a relationship with a lot of people. You got other options, guys. You got to make yourself the best option and give them the reasons to pick you.
Right, exactly.
Essentially. And what are ways to do that?
Yeah, we're going to talk about that, but touching on that real quick before we go on, some buyers actually think that one of the ways to do that, to be not picky, is to skip their home inspection. And that's a big mistake, actually. You never want to skip your home inspection. Now, what you can do is
not Google for one.
Don't want to Google for a home inspection.
You mentioned that
for sure. But what you can say when you're presenting your offer, you can say, I'm going to do a home inspection, but I will not ask for anything based on those results. You can say, once I do my inspection, it's for my information only. I take my home inspection and I go to contract, right? Or I get my home inspection and nope, I am not moving forward. But you can say, like, I'm not going to negotiate on the home inspection. I'm doing it for my information only, is one way.
Do you often see that helps by saying that?
In this market, that has been a factor. Or they would, maybe I'm representing the buyer and then the listing agent comes back to me and says, well, are you going to do a home inspection? Because I've got other offers that won't do a home inspection. And my response is, because remember, I'm representing the buyer. Like, I want my buyer's best interest to be protected. So in that case, what I say is, we're going to do a home inspection, but we're not going to negotiate it. We're doing it for our information only, because I would never, never, never advise my buyer to not do a home inspection.
Right.
In fact, what we tell them is, it's the best $500 or $600 you're going to spend throughout this process, because you're protecting your own investment.
Yes.
Or you're getting full knowledge about what you're investing in right now.
You want to know how much time you have on this roof, or what's lying underneath these.
What if there's a major
floors?
issue, right? Like, if you're identifying a major issue, that's important. We're not, right, as a buyer, you might not care about, leaky sink or this or whatever, things that are broken. You're okay with cosmetic replacement or minor repairs. But if that $600 can save you thousands on a major repair, or identify a major repair so you know going in, that's a huge difference.
At least knowing what to expect down the road as well.
Yeah, I mean, you're a first time buyer.
Even if you're locked in, you're not walking away from this house, knowing what to expect. All right, a few years from now, I got to spend on X, Y, Z. Okay, I'm prepared for that.
Exactly. So let's go into the biggest mistakes that first time home buyers make, so we can save you some time and some money. For starters,
let's say I want to buy a house in a few months. Let me contact Rebbeca. I want to start seeing houses.
Great. That sounds wonderful. So what we do is we have a consultation. So you want to always contact an agent first, and you want to meet with them to talk about what you want first. And that's before you.
But I don't want to get a pre-approval first.
That's fine. You don't have to get a pre-approval to have a consultation.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, cool.
So what you should really do is you should sit down with an agent, an experienced agent, before you begin, and talk about what you want to do and what to expect exactly. Maybe you're not going to be ready for 6 months or 8 months. So that's okay. You don't have to get pre-approved today if you're not ready to move for 6 or 8 months. But we're going to start educating you on the process. When do you get pre-approved? You get pre-approved before you see houses. And in the world we're living in right now, I, as an agent representing a buyer, I have to actually send your pre-approval over
to the listing agent
before I even get an appointment. I have to send that over. Almost 90% of the time, we have to send pre-approvals over before we even get an appointment. So, number one, it's required for almost every house you want to see. Number two,
it's in your best interest.
Yeah, it's a complete waste of time for you to see a single house without a pre-approval. And what are the reasons? What do we identify when you pre-approve a buyer? What are you identifying that streamlines the process of them even looking at a single house?
Well, it's not only what you qualify for, but it's what type of loan you qualify for. Maybe the houses, and I know we've talked about this in past videos, but maybe the houses that you're seeing require certain types of loans. You want to know your options as far as what types of loans you qualify for. And not only that, but what your budget is. Maybe you qualify for something, but your lifestyle doesn't fit that budget. So you're out looking at homes, you want to know what fits your budget, your monthly budget. So that brings you to tax brackets and whatnot in different areas. So if I'm looking originally at houses and I was pre-approved maybe for Queens, taxes are lower, and I decide, I'm going to reach out. I like Rebbeca, I want to see houses in Long Island. Well, if you didn't check back in with your lender and find out where your payment is, that throws off the numbers completely. So staying in touch, not only getting the pre-approval, but staying in touch with your lender and knowing your budget, knowing where your payments lie for each different areas, and et cetera.
Yeah, property taxes can make a huge difference on what you can afford. You know, you might be looking at houses, maybe your budget is $500,000 and you're already approved, right? But you're approved at $500,000 and $12,000 in taxes. So that means $1,000 a month on your mortgage payment is going straight to your property taxes. But then you see a house and it's $500,000. Great. It's within your budget. Awesome, right? Beautiful house. Taxes. Taxes are $17,000 maybe. Or even $14,000, right?
Every little bit is going to make a difference.
If 500 is the max you're approved for, you cannot get that house. It just cannot work. And we can talk in depth too. We do that at all of our buyer consultations. We talk in depth about the effect of property taxes on your purchase price. It's a really, really important piece of your pre-approval, along with your monthly payments, what you can purchase versus what you want to purchase.
How much you're putting down. Someone actually reached out to me a few times recently about what closing costs to expect.
Yeah.
And now this particular person doesn't have a property in mind, this and that, but we can talk about estimated, so you can get an idea of estimated closing costs. But forgetting that part of the equation is huge. You have not only your down payment, but your closing costs as well.
Right.
And without factoring that in,
it's huge. We actually have people sometimes who come to us and they're like, "Oh, I already got my pre-approval. I'm great." And they come to us and they say, "Yep, I'm pre-approved. I've got 5% down conventional. I'm ready to go. I have my down payment. Great. What do you have saved for closing costs?" And their loan officer never even mentioned it, which is absolutely crazy, because if you're getting pre-approved by somebody who's not like looking at your bank account to know that those closing costs are there, or asking you like, "Hey, yeah, I see you've got that money for your down payment, but you don't have money for closing costs. Where is that coming from?" Like,
I don't get that.
Issuing a pre-approval without even talking about that is absolutely nuts, right?
Yes.
So, but there are people who come to us and they have no idea. They think that closing costs are the same thing as their down payment, or they don't, or they just don't even know. They don't know at all how high they can actually be. What is an estimated closing cost? So if
I like to say, given ballpark figure, if you have no idea, not knowing the area or anything specifics about the property, 4 to 6% of the purchase price.
That's what we tell everybody too. Plan on 4 to 6%.
And I always overestimate too. You don't know when taxes are going to come due on the property. A lot of things are outside sources, so we don't know what the exacts are going to be: title fees, tax fees, who you choose for attorney fees, things like that. We estimate, but I always overestimate because you want to be prepared.
We like to overestimate too for everybody. Like, tell them, we're like, "Oh, could be as low as 4%, could be as high as 6% most of the time."
I'd rather be over prepared. You don't know what to expect, especially over prepare yourself as far as savings. Because you have just enough to move in. Well, guess what? 2 weeks from moving in and something breaks, something falls down unexpected. You have to expect for the unexpected.
The unexpected is going to happen, guys. It's going to happen probably. You're buying a house, so.
I think I might scare some of my buyers by saying that sometimes. I said, no, you have to. What could go wrong tomorrow? And then they start listing all the things that could go wrong.
It's just common sense, really. It's common sense. Like, you should never put yourself in a situation where you're draining every penny out of your savings for anything, even your house. You should still have a little cushion there, right? Emergency fund, because it's an emergency if your water heater breaks, or your heat goes, or I don't know, a tree falls on your house, whatever it is. Those are important things. You need to have
something medical happens to you personally. You're out of work for a couple weeks and maybe you're not getting paid, or whatever it is from.
Exactly.
You have to expect things like that.
Right.
So that goes, I think we covered basically pre-approval type stuff, being prepared as far as that goes. And now we spoke about inspections, getting that done, which is important. And we had spoken earlier about not just Google searching for things like this, Google searching for an inspector or an attorney.
Yeah, guys, do not use Google to find all of these people. Like, I don't care if it's your agent, your inspector, your loan officer, your attorney.
You have good resources.
Do not Google it. Look, if you have a loan officer, if you have just one person, just one good person
who you trust, you rely on,
they can help you have good referrals to all the people.
And make sure, check out the reviews. Yes, really though, we have such a great network, and when people will tell me, okay, I'll make sure, okay, it's a real estate attorney. Yeah. All right. You knew them, or you know it's a real estate attorney?
Yeah.
I Googled them. It's the cheapest one I found. It's great.
Yeah, so you always want to take somebody who's a referral. And a referral from somebody in the business is really key, because we work with these people. Like, if you come and you're like, oh, I'm going to use this inspector, and I know that inspector, and They are just not great to
In
work
and out
with.
for a quick job, not really looking
You know,
at
I can't tell you that they suck necessarily, but that's why we refer people who don't suck. You
You've
know,
been doing this long enough to know. We've said this. I've said this about realtors. I've said this about attorneys. When you kind of vet through them over the years, we've probably seen how many go in and out of here over the years, and you pick. I'm glad to work with the few that I work with because they're solid. People like yourself. Like we have a solid small group who we can rely on and trust, and who know their stuff.
And we don't just refer one person. Like we know
we
multiple.
give you
So
options.
I'm going to give you I'll give you 3 names and you can Google them. But don't just Google real estate attorney and pick the one that
And how do
costs
you feel
the
about
least.
costing? How do you feel about that? Finding the
I
cheapest
feel
one?
like you get what you pay for.
Okay.
Right?
Agreed.
It's
Now you can debate that on any topic, not just real estate. You get what you
Yeah.
pay for essentially in almost anything.
exactly. That's like everything. Whether it's your shoes, you get what you pay for. Your house, you get what you pay for. That's why houses that are beautiful and all done
There's a
cost
reason
more
they
than
cost more.
houses that need everything, right? You know, your highlights, anything. Your wine, maybe your wine. I don't know. I don't necessarily.
You like cheap wine?
I like cheap wine. I like wine in general, right? Like it doesn't matter if it's cheap. You could put this next to me with 3 other things, and I wouldn't be able to tell you the price of any of them because I'm not that smart about wine. I don't know.
But we do our research about real estate.
I just know that I like wine.
So do your research on who you're working with.
Yes. Okay. What's next on our list here? I have using a big bank on my list as a big mistake for first-time home buyers.
Or any buyers.
Yeah, any buyers, really, honestly. So, from a real estate standpoint, I mean, Danielle's a bank. Of course, she is going to tell you, like, don't use any other bank. I'm going to tell you from a real estate standpoint why you shouldn't use a big bank and why I highly recommend against it. And I will say that there are some banks that I've had good experiences with and I was surprised by.
Like anything.
Yeah, there have been some, and you know, there's one big bank that I've had good experiences with.
What was it?
It was Chase, actually. Chase is the only big bank that I've worked with that has been a good experience, and it's been more than once. It's certain loan officers there. Don't just go to any Chase, but there's certain loan officers who do their job. You know, who take pride in their work and do their job. They answer their phones and such. So this is what happens when you're a buyer. You go and see houses, especially if you're working. Most of the time when you're seeing houses, it's weekends and evenings, okay? And so we're in seller's market, so it's multiple offer situations all the time. It's a lot of competition.
You might need to increase the pre-approval over the weekend and see if they qualify.
We might need to get a specific pre-approval for that particular house because maybe the property taxes are higher or maybe the purchase price is higher and they can afford it, but they just don't have the piece of paper that says it, right? Because they've decided, oh, I will go up to my max budget. Regardless, every time you submit an offer, you should submit a fresh pre-approval for that house. A couple of reasons to do that. One good reason is, say you're approved for $550 and you're putting a $500 offer on a house. The last thing you want to do is show them that you can go up to $550 because that's just like laying all your cards on the table. Because if I'm a listing agent, I'm going to be like, they can go up to $550. Let's get them up. We can get them up. Come on, let's play that game, right?
Hurts your negotiating powers.
So you always want to get a fresh pre-approval. And if you're working with a big bank, they don't, most of the time, I've pretty much never found a big bank loan officer who is working evenings and weekends and they're giving you their cell phone number and they're sending over pre-approvals timely like that. So I know that like if I have like Danielle or somebody who works at a bank similar to Danielle's, I know that I can call them and I can be like, hey, I need a pre-approval. I need to submit it by tonight. Any chance you can get me a fresh one over with these numbers on it? And I can call her or I could text her and she's gonna make it happen. Unfortunately, even when she's out at a barbecue and she's hanging out with her family, she's gonna be like, yep, let me sneak into the bathroom and do that, right?
It's been done.
Right?
I think in Aruba was the last time I said I finally got a vacation and whoever I was with was mad that I said 2 seconds, I got this. To the point where my clients didn't even realize I was away. And I would tell them. I said,
when we're away, we never let you know we're away.
But she caught on and she said, I would have never, didn't even realize the difference.
Right.
Because it's just so seamless, and we
Right,
can get it done wherever, and we will
Yeah.
still be in contact.
It's a 5-minute thing, right? It's a small thing, but it's a small thing that makes a big difference to these buyers who are in competitive offer situations. It's huge for them. And you're not gonna get that kind of service out of a big bank. I always say you should shop for service for everyone you're using. Your loan officer, your inspector, your attorney, your bank, all of them, your agent. It's all really about service, because when it really comes down to it, you're probably spending the exact same amount of money on that rate and the exact same amount of money at that closing table.
Yep.
Sometimes those banks make you think you're not going to spend as much.
And essentially time is
But you
money
are.
too, because these bigger banks may take longer, and at that point, you've now wasted time and you could have been in the house. There's so many factors that go into that when it's a longer process, or it's not straightforward, it just doesn't feel smooth.
Right. It's kind of like the difference between going to like a fast food restaurant and being served at a sit-down restaurant, right? Like, you have good service when you're sitting down at a sit-down restaurant. Why? Well, one of the reasons is because that person serving you is making money based on how good their service is.
That's a good way to put it as well.
They're not making a salary. You know, they're not making a bank
Like the
salary.
bigger banks, exactly.
Right? They're not making the same amount of money no matter how many loans they close, or the same amount of money no matter how many hours they work.
No, we have to close the file to
Right.
get paid.
Exactly.
Both
So-
sides of the spectrum. So
Yeah. So in those situations, you know, you've got somebody who's working harder for you because their livelihood depends on it. You know, these are the things that pay our work is what pays our bills, you know? So it's meaningful to us. It's very meaningful to us. And aside from that, we just really care about our people.
we do.
Like, sometimes we care like to a crazy amount, you know? It gets, when our clients are buying houses, like,
We're a part of it.
it's emotional for us too. We feel it. We're like, "Arr," you know, something goes wrong, we go rage. You know, when something
We're
goes
mad
wrong,
for
we're
you,
mad.
yeah.
We're mad when they're mad. But it really comes down to service, don't you think?
I agree. And you pay for exactly what we started off with. You get what you're paying for. And
Oh, so one thing that I like to joke about a lot, but it's a real thing for first-time home buyers, but I do like to joke about it a lot, are your parents.
oh, this is our favorite. Over-involved parents.
Over-involved parents.
Now, I'm close with my parents, but we got to draw the lines on some of this stuff, right?
So parents aren't a bad thing. Your parents are looking out for your best interests. The only real problem is that they have no fucking clue sometimes. If they haven't bought a house in the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, they just don't know how it works right now. So sometimes we've got situations where your parents might not have bought a house for 20 or 30 years.
And to them, the market is still the same as it was.
And it's completely different. The process is different. The market is different. So many things about it are totally different. So the biggest mistakes that I see buyers making as a result of their parents' advice are, number one, you should drive around different neighborhoods and look for signs in the yards.
What kind of signs?
Well, for sale signs.
So you want to see if everything's being sold. Yeah,
Right.
you hear that one a lot.
Right. Number one, like, who has time for that? I do recommend that you drive around neighborhoods that you want to look
Yeah,
in,
see if you
for
like the
sure,
area.
because to see if you like the area. But looking for signs is crazy. Number one, not every house that's for sale has a sign in the yard, because not all sellers want a sign in their yard. Some people, they don't want their neighbors to know that they're selling their house. They're gonna know, by the way. Everybody's online. But they just don't want a sign in their yard. So there will be tons of houses that are for sale that don't have a sign. Number two, if houses are selling in 24, 48 hours, 72 hours, things like that, the chances are that, you know, probably 95% of the signs you see are already under contract, because the sign stays in the yard until the house
And they're
is
not always
closed.
updated. Yep.
Right. So you could see tons of signs, but they're for houses that are they're gone. They're already under contract, and they'll remove the sign when the house closes.
What do you feel about, I think we talked about parents going to the inspections, or...
That's the worst thing that you could ever do, by the way, is have your parents at the inspection. Well, there's a couple of reasons. Actually, right now, you can't actually have your parents with you at your showing appointment or your inspection. The reason why is COVID. That fancy thing called COVID that we've got. Only buyers are allowed to see houses right now. You're not allowed to like bring your family. Some houses you can't even like bring your kids into. So like say you don't have a babysitter in your same house. Involved. Yeah. So you can't just bring anybody with you to see houses right now in the current state of the market. So that's a key thing to remember just before you get started. But the reason why your parents shouldn't go to the home inspection with you is because your home inspection is designed for you to speak to the inspector, listen to what he says, and learn about the house. Your home inspection is not a negotiating tool. Sometimes we can negotiate things based on the inspection, certain things, and we guide you on the things that you can negotiate on. So yeah, like your roof is leaking, yeah, let's address it.
Yeah.
You've got electrical problems or plumbing problems or a structural issue. You've got real things that are for negotiating on. Yes, let's go for it. But really, when you go to that inspection, you should be interacting with the inspector and they should be giving you information. You should be asking them questions. You're gonna learn how to maintain the house. That's really, really important. And what happens a lot of times that we see is the parents come to the home inspection and they have the best of intentions, but what they do is they walk around, they follow the inspector around, and they're saying,
interfering with the purpose of it.
Did you see this? What about this? I'm really concerned about this spot on the wall. You know, so they have the best of intentions. They really, really do. They're just trying to help you. But what happens is the inspection takes a lot longer and the buyers don't get as much value out of the inspection because the inspector is constantly interrupted by the parents.
They move into the house and maybe they don't know how to turn XYZ on or work this appliance or work that, which we missed all those steps.
Exactly, because they're going to show you things like, where's the water shut off? Show me about the electrical panel. My inspector will tell people all kinds of things that are really good pieces of advice for just maintaining your house. And they're things that are going to save you thousands of dollars in repairs because you're going to maintain it instead of wait for something to go wrong. So I highly recommend against bringing your parents for any inspection.
Or just tell them to be quiet.
Well, typically what we do is your parents can come, you can show your parents the house. We just let's just get through these first pieces, really.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, let's get into the house, let's get your inspection done, let's get you under contract, and then you can bring your parents and show them your house. We know you're excited to do it, and that's really awesome. Let's just get all the logistics out of the way first. It ends up going smoother for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Less opinions involved.
Yes.
It was another no-no right before.
Going to the listing agents.
Oh, that's a good one. We've definitely brought this one up, but and I hear this all the time. And especially once a buyer starts shopping and they say, oh, it's okay, I'm waiting on an answer from the agent. What agent? Well, they call the listing agent. Mm-hmm. Now, I know we've explained this in previous videos, but what does that do for you calling the listing agent as a buyer? If I'm thinking I'm getting maybe the best offer, maybe they're gonna fight for me to get this house. No?
There's so many things that can go wrong just from that one phone call that can really mess you up as a buyer when you go straight to the listing agent. Because that agent, who do they represent? Who does the listing agent represent?
The homeowner.
The homeowner. So they represent the exact person that you're going to be negotiating with in the end. So ring. The first question that they're going to ask you is, are you pre-approved? Great, send me over your pre-approval. First mistake, right there, right? What if that house is listed at 500? Your pre-approval says you can go up to 600. Right there, first mistake. They know you've shown them all of your cards. They know how much you can spend.
They want the best for their seller. Their interest is not about you.
They're contractually obligated to the seller. So their job is to get the seller the best price. So that's the number one reason why you should never go to the listing agent. But then you combine that with all of the things you're going to negotiate on, terms, price, inspection, timing, everything. Well, they still represent the seller, so they're not looking out for you. So at every step of the transaction going forward, what's going to happen is that you have a person who's representing you, but they're really representing the other person, and they're just handling you, basically.
But people think cutting corners or eliminating one person out of the equation, it'll get the job done quicker, or they'll accept my offer because they don't have to pay this one commission. It's really not how it works anymore. At one point it was probably how it works,
but we're highly regulated by the state is one huge piece of it. We're highly regulated. We're required to follow certain rules, and there are rules that protect the consumers. So when you go to the listing agent, you're basically just setting yourself up to not be as protected because they're obligated to the person they have the contract with. Mm-hmm. If you have a buyer's contract with an agent who's obligated to protect your interests, it actually helps you significantly.
Pre-approval based off of credit or income.
Just gotta be
solid. It's a combination of both. So we can address this in a million different ways, and we're probably gonna do a video just on that. So basically, yes, income and credit. And I say this to people all the time when they ask about, so how much income do I need to qualify? It's such a complicated question, and it shouldn't be, but it is. The income isn't all it is. So someone with $80,000 in income, say for example, and has, I don't know, $1,000 of monthly debt each month, is going to be a totally different qualification than someone with $80,000 of income a year and maybe $50 of monthly payments. It's a combination of your debt to income ratios, and now I'm really up. So it's a combination of your debt to income ratio, it's your down payment, it's your credit score, of course, but that's not all that matters. Your score is important, but it's how much debt that you have monthly that you're responsible of. That's how the bank really calculates the ratios. Any other questions we have? I think there was another one, right?
No, we just had 2 more people join.
Okay. So I hope that answers that. If you guys have more questions on how exactly a pre-approval works or how you get pre-approved, I think you brought up credit scores. Your score can affect your rates, and again, it's not just your score that affects your rates. It's the loan amount, it's the loan, it's how much you're putting down. There's so many factors that go into not only qualifications, but what rate you qualify for. And that's a conversation typically we'll have with buyers, and we give them the options. Hey, if you want this type of loan, this is where it breaks down as, this is where the rate is for this. You want to save a little bit of money in your pocket, we can go this angle. So there's so many different, it's not just a cutthroat answer ever, it's always options for this stuff.
Yeah, and it seems like we always get people who are
turning
like,
real Italian with my hands. I am Italian, but it comes out more. Put the rosé down.
I know. I always get people who are always like, oh yeah, I did get a pre-approval, but I'm going to keep shopping for a rate. I'm going to keep shopping for a rate. And what I find is that now most of the people that we recommend, they really are getting
the best,
a competitive rate,
right? No matter
what. Because the people that we typically work with, the mortgage banks that we're working with, are offering the best rates. They have the most they have the same or better programs available most of the time. And what I often find too is you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you might not even be allowed to say this also. But what I've often found is that sometimes the buyers who are on the edge of being approved, maybe their credit score is a little on the edge.
By running it again and again.
They're running it again and again, and then they might be hurting themselves. But also, there might be programs that are more available to somebody who might be a little lower on the credit spectrum, and also self-employed borrowers.
There's different program for everything.
Right.
There's programs for self-employed. We have programs that make more sense for someone with a lower credit or different ratios in the next. If pulling 2 files next to each other are never going to be the same.
Right.
So when someone might say, oh, but my best friend got this rate from this bank.
And that's what I mean.
And they just closed last week. And I say, well, okay, what do you know what type of loan it was? Do you know how much they put down? Mm-hmm. Do you know what their loan amount was? And
they could be doing a 15-year conventional, and you're doing a 30-year FHA.
And maybe you have a jumbo loan, and she's got a small condo, whatever it may be. There's so many different factors that go into it. Mm-hmm. So it's never just but this one, I want the same as that one. You have to play out
it's not necessarily the bank, it's the borrower.
And I would say,
the loan.
Exactly. It's all about your criteria, and as well as shopping around, like you mentioned. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I always say, if you're going to shop around, fine, so be it. We're confident in our services if you shop around, I expect you to come back. But if you shop around, wait till you're getting closer. Maybe once you're in contract, things are more real. If you're shopping around during the pre-approval process, or when you're just shopping maybe for 6 months, usually it's on average, right? Buyer 6 months shopping.
6 to 12 months is average when people start looking.
And maybe you get a pre-approval from one bank and you get quoted one rate, and then a few months later, oh, I'm going to shop around, I'm going to talk to another bank. You know what, this bank quoted me this rate. Well, it's been how many months?
Right.
Do you think the rates stay the same?
The market changes every day.
So you have to keep those factors in mind. That same thing someone says, well, this bank offers. Well, we spoke 3 months ago. Of course the things have changed. You know?
All you have to do is call her up and be like, hey, I saw this. Can you do that?
So just
she'll look at it and see if they can do that.
Keep in mind when you're shopping options, shop it in the same time frame. And you should always shop and make sure you're happy with your services you're getting. But shop it in the same time frame, so it's a fair advantage for yourself and for the competitors.
Right. You want to make smart decisions, and you don't want to make decisions based on what other people tell you. You want to make decisions based on real facts. It's really important because your friends are going to tell you all of the great things all the time, but you should really look at the facts for yourself too. Because you're different than your friend. You don't have the same credit as your friend.
Right.
Maybe yours is better. Maybe you could do even better than the rate they got, right? Because you do not overspend. You live within your means.
Go you. Okay, should someone get a pre-approval before their score is up in the 700s, or should they get the score up? Should someone get a pre-approval before their score is 700? Should they get the score up? Okay, I understand the question now. And does the pre-approval change, or is it a set number? Okay.
I think it depends on when you want to buy.
Right. So if you're saying, should you wait until your score is a 700 to get a pre-approval? You can pre-approve. We pre-approve much lower scores than that. Is that a good score? Sure, that's a qualifying score. But it doesn't hurt to talk to a bank prior to that. I tell people, as soon as you start thinking about buying, contact a lender, see where your qualifications are at. In the process, we can help you get the scores up even more and qualify for the best available rate. But as far as waiting to, weird angles again. Hi guys.
We both wore skirts today, so clearly that's an issue.
So to answer that, I don't know, I always say as soon as you start considering it, talk to a lender. You don't need to wait until you're the ideal or perfect client in your eyes, because
you never know what's going to come up too. I always tell everybody it's never too early to talk to a lender. Right. Because what if there's something on your credit that you didn't know about?
And there was another question.
Which we had spoken about a couple weeks ago, that I had my credit looked at one point, and there were 2 items on my credit that I had no idea were there. I had no idea that they were even there. And we had to repair those 2 items. And I think you had something too that was a surprise on your credit at one point. So it's never too early to look, because you can get those, if you have a surprise, you have time to deal with the surprise. But also, it's a really great time to, to say like, oh, well, maybe I am ready now. Like, look at it and you say, wait, maybe I am ready now. Or maybe something comes up and a great house becomes available.
And that makes you pull the trigger, because a lot of times people are sitting back on it and, I don't want to call the bank yet.
I'll do it. And then all of a sudden the house right in the perfect location, they're like, they fall in love, and
they waited, and then they miss out, and then they say, I guess I gotta get the pre-approval letter sooner now.
Right.
But, and that other question on there was
asking, getting a pre-approved now doesn't mean you have to buy now. You're fine. You can buy whenever. It's okay. You can still sit back and relax, but it can help you to go earlier.
And it's flexible. So the other question on there was, is the pre-approval a set amount number, or can it change? I can change it a million different times. Typically we go in with a basic number. Okay, so I'm thinking this price range, I'm thinking these areas. Okay, so let's base it off of this price point and these taxes. You go out shopping, you maybe get better idea of the houses and the price point at that point.
Yeah.
I always say that, and as realtors, as loan officers, we always say, stay in touch with us. Keep us in the loop, what you're looking at, what you like. Over the weekend, maybe, I thought 400 was my range, but if I qualify for 500, can we bump it up? Okay. 500, and what's the tax? You can change it. So long as we have all the documents in, we have the file open.
Right, and we do the same thing too. So say you're approved for 400, and we're out shopping, and we're looking at houses that are in your budget, and we're just like, you're not feeling it, right? Like, you are just not loving anything, right? So I might, before I even talk to you as the buyer, I might go to Danielle and I might say, hey, like, they're approved for 400. We're just having a really hard time finding a good fit. Do they have any flexibility in their price? Can they go up if they found something better? Or maybe I'll say, I have a house coming to the market and it's gonna be $450, and it might be a really good fit for them if they're comfortable with that number, or if they can even get approved for that number. And I'll talk to her first, because what happens is I wanna talk to her first to see if it's even possible, because I don't wanna get your heart set on it, and then I have to get you all fallen in love, and then I have to break your heart all at the same time, right?
Well, actually, and then just blame it on us. Well, actually, she said you can't get it,
so it might be like, hey, like I have this house, it might be a good fit for them, but it's over the budget we've been looking at.
We have the
Can they do
conversation
it?
first. Sure, they can. Then we'll speak to the client. Hey, are you okay with the payment now? Because this is where you're at. All right, cool. Everyone's happy.
And then we'll show you the house so you can fall in love after we know you can afford it.
Yeah, we don't want you falling in love and then realizing you got to break the news to the family. Sorry, kids. Back on the game.
We're kind of like therapists sometimes, right? We do a lot of managing emotions.
It's an emotional process. But we're here to walk you through it. I think that wraps it up. Unless another question came in. No, we're good.
No, we're good? All right, we're going to wrap it up for today. Thank you for watching another edition of In-House Happy Hour.
Thanks
I'm
for
Rebbeca
tuning in,
Cohen.
guys. And I'm Danielle Adornato.
Oh, and I got to share with you, any real estate questions, anything real estate related at all, text 516-262-6497. That's 516-262-6497. That's our new number for our texting platform. We can text all day long, any questions real estate related at all. Send them my way. Even if you have questions about pre-approval, you can send them my way to that number also, and I will follow up with Danielle.
Always feel free to message us though with questions.
Yep, we are here for you. Stay tuned for the next time. Bye.